Hi, I'm YP3. I'm here to explain to you how to use the feedback form on the storyboard that you need to review for one of your colleagues. So first of all, that's the first page. So I am doing this now. Today is the 10th of December, 2021. Feedback is given by Mrs. Puganik, and I'm giving feedback to a storyboard that I found on Google. I actually don't know the author. I should have looked it up, but it's not the point now. So I'm just going to put here found on Google. You're going to put the person's name who has written the storyboard that you're reviewing. So I'm going to show you the storyboard that I found here. That's this one. As I said already, I found it on Google. It has no math content. It is just an example for a storyboard. And I'm going to give you a minute now to read through that. And when you're back, I'm going to go back to page 1 to show you how to review it. So please pause the video now to read through the storyboard. So now that you're back, let's go through how to give feedback on that. So I am actually going to give feedback on 6 criteria. I'm going to give feedback on the mathematical language, the logical structure, the educational content, coherent explanations, the storyline, and the creativity. So I'm going to start with, when am I going to start? I'm going to start with creativity. I thought that this story was actually quite creative. So a high rating would be put further to the outside of the shape. So that would be here. I'm going to say I really found that this storyboard was creative. So I'm going to give it high marks here. Mathematical language, I would have to say there was none because there is no math involved in that story. So that would give us a very low rating. Low ratings are indicated towards the middle, towards the center of this graph. So that would be here, or maybe even right in the middle. Logical structure, well, I am so when you're looking at this, I would suggest that you look at the logical structure of the math involved. As there is no math involved, I'm going to say, okay, I'm still going to consider the rest of the structure. And I found it was logical because I could see first the whole class and I could see that boy and I could follow the logical structure of events that was happening. So I'm just going to give it a, something like here. So not super high because actually that logic is not based on the math, but the structure was logical. Okay. Educational content. Yes, there was educational content. It was a moral content that was described here, but it was not mathematical. So I'm going to probably give it a point right here. Coherent explanations. Well, I could understand every single step that was on that story. Was there maths involved? I would take a very close look. Can I understand every step of the maths that they're doing in that story and judge on that? For now, as there is no maths involved, I can just say yes. The explanations that were given were enough. I could follow the storyline. I knew what was going on. So now we're coming to the storyline. That was very good, I think, because I could follow from one frame to the next. I could understand, well, that's what's going on in the story. I could see, okay, first I can see the whole class, then I can see that person, then I can see the girl that is helping out. So the storyline was very clear to me from the first to that very last frame. So I'm going to give it a very high rating here. Finally, in the next step, that you're going to do is you're going to connect the dots that you made um, on this graph. So you're going to start with one of them. Oopsie, sorry, that was my bad. You're going to start on one of them, and it doesn't matter which one, and you're simply going to connect those dots from here to here, here to here, from one to the next, to the next, to the next, with a ruler, please, to the next. And that's what you're going to get. Now, what does that person getting this kind of feedback get from the feedback? So that person can clearly see straight away that they did very well on creativity and the storyline. They also did okay on the logical structure and the coherent explanations, but they didn't do well at all on the educational context and the math language involved. So these are going to be areas that they will have to improve on first. Okay. But then I would like to give more detailed feedback on that person's work. So I'm going to write down 3 specific things that this person has done really well. So first of all, I'm going to say it was a very clear storyline. Clear storyline. Okay, that's the first thing, because I found that this was actually the case. The storyline was very clear. I'm also going to say that the next strong point that I had here was that I found it creative. Creative. I'm just going to put here creative, and I'm going to explain. I like the way, and that's what I found for this particular story. I like the way that person or you are using close-ups, and long shots, to emphasize the story or to emphasize parts of your story, And another strong point that I found is that the story's logical structure itself was clear to me. So I would say your story, not the math, but the story has a logical structure. And for the specific things they can improve on, I'm going to say one thing that is quite important to that. So when you're trying to give feedback, always try to phrase it positively instead of negatively. So instead of writing, you didn't involve any maths, I suggest you write, make sure to involve maths in your story. And that's the major point for this one. Make sure to involve maths in your story. So that's here very clear. In your case, it could be that the maths is not very, that the context is very simple or not very rich. So you could write that as well. Then I found that the educational content is a moral one. Also try to include a math content. So actually that's the same point here. So I'm going to write the educational content is a moral one. The educational content is a moral one. Moral content. Also include math content. Doesn't say that you shouldn't include a moral one as well, but the maths is missing, so that needs to be added. Also include math content. And finally, I would suggest that when you do the math, make sure to use appropriate language, okay? So that's a suggestion for something that's not even there yet. When you do the math, use appropriate language. Sorry, mistake here, oopsie, language. So, and that's done. That's the feedback the person would get from me. And that's the way you should go about giving feedback to that person that you're reviewing. Make sure that everything is phrased positively, that it is constructive, so the person can work on specific parts of their work, that they know what they need to improve on, and that they also go away with the feeling of, actually, I have accomplished something already, and I'm going to go and improve it. Thank you for watching.